4.
Clare. Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Emer Arkins, and I am originally from County Clare, which is on the west coast of Ireland. Has anyone here ever been to Ireland before? Yeah? Oh, brilliant. Well, if you visited the Cliffs of Moher, you weren't too far from where I grew up. I'm from a small little place called Rouen, which is just outside the main town in County Clare, Ennis. But I've been living in St. Louis for the last number of years, and that's where I play music with these fine musicians. And so I'm going to introduce you to both of them now. On my right here on the uilleann pipes, and he's going to be telling you all about them in a couple of minutes, is Nicholas Brown. And on my left, on the harp today, is Eileen Gannon. And Eileen's parents come from County Limerick and County Galway. Does anyone here have any Irish ancestry? Oh, wow, amazing. Excellent. There's Irish people everywhere. That's our number one export, is people. Yeah. Well, we open there with a couple of tunes, and we are going to talk a little bit about all of our instruments and explain them to you and give you an opportunity to ask us some questions about our music or our instruments and the culture. But just to give you a little bit of background, in Ireland, those of you that have visited might have noticed this, but Irish music, song and dance are a huge part of growing up in Ireland and a huge part of our Irish culture. And I don't think there's ever been a time where Irish music has been as strong as it is today. There are thousands and thousands of kids in Ireland learning music. Most of us start in grade school, and we start with the tin whistle. I think some here you might have started on the recorder at some point in school. Well, in Ireland we play the tin whistle, and it's hard to find a school in the country that doesn't have some kind of music program, even if it's some singing, some Irish music, or even some Irish dancing. Irish dancing is extremely popular. Has anyone here ever seen Riverdance or Lord of the Dance? Yeah, a couple of people. So those are two of the biggest touring dance shows that started in the 90s and have been touring ever since. Riverdance is still on the road. It did a tour of the US last spring. So both of those shows have done wonders for putting Irish music and Irish dancing at the forefront of another of our exports. You'll see these shows all over the world, so we're really lucky that our Irish music is being played and being appreciated in all corners of the globe. And here we are today in Joplin, bringing you a bit of Irish music. Woo! So I'm going to turn it over to Nick now, who's going to introduce this contraption on his lap and explain everything there is to explain in as brief a time as possible about the uilleann pipes. Because I tell you, if you give Nick the microphone for too long, he could be here for a week telling you all about the uilleann pipes.
What's there to tell? They're really obvious. So as Emer said, these are uilleann pipes. Uilleann is the Irish Gaelic word for elbow. It looks like it should be pronounced Julian, but it is uilleann. So a friend of mine says it's like chillin' without the ch. So uilleann, that's how you remember it. So these are Irish bagpipes, and just like I'm sure people have seen, actually, who has ever seen this contraption before? Anyone?
Ooh.
A few, nice, awesome. All right, so yeah, we're good. Just tell each other, you don't need me. So if you've seen Highland pipers, the people walking down the street trying to get away from the music, those are the other bagpipes that everyone knows. They wear kilts and are really loud. These are slightly more sociable, not quite as obnoxious, and I do have to sit down to play them. Like I said, I play with my elbows, so under the one elbow I have a bellows. I like to say that my fireplace is no longer functional, so I took the fireplace bellows and put it on the pipes. That feeds into this bag, which is the bag part of the pipes. That bag is a reservoir of air that fills all the rest of this, which are the pipes part of the bagpipes. So we have the melody, which, unlike the Highland pipes, has 2 octaves. So we're better. And then we have the drones. So they provide kind of a blanket of sound underneath everything. Again, unlike the Highland pipes, I can turn them off. You can ask Emer and Eileen, I never do, but I can if I wanted to. And then we have this extra contraption. There's 3 extra pipes here called regulators. We don't know why. No one knows why. And in fact, one of the earliest tutors for the Irish pipes called them a pupilo, which is way better. I don't know why we stopped. But you can play chords with them. And you play those with your wrists while you're playing. So I'll give you an example of that. Any questions before I do? All right, well, I'm going to
there is one there.
Yeah, go on. Do you play the Scottish bagpipes as well? I do not. It's a good question, actually. So like Emer said, a lot of people who get into Irish music, especially in Ireland, start on the tin whistle, and I did as well. That's how I got into this, was completely outside of the Scottish bagpiping way of getting into it. So yeah, I don't play them. I don't think I could. They're really hard to play.
Does anyone here play them now that Nick has insulted them enough? Is there anyone that wants to meet him outside afterwards? Yeah.
No, I actually love Scottish bagpipes, just to save myself here. I love them. I do think they're actually harder to play than these, so I don't have the talent for it.
Good save. with our Irish music and Irish dancing, we have a really strong Irish singing tradition in Ireland as well, and we sing in the Irish language and in English as well. And I'm going to sing 2 songs for you today, but the first one I'm going to sing is a love song. So along with singing in 2 languages in Ireland, we have various different types of songs. So we have rebel songs, songs about emigration, love songs, humorous songs, patriotic songs, mournful songs. We've lots of those as well, and the love songs are usually are rarely happy. They're usually pretty bittersweet about someone having to be left behind because their loved one went off to war or emigrated or went off with someone else. That's a recurring theme as well. But the song I'm going to sing for you today is a love song, and it's a song of admiration, and it's called Bonnie Blue-Eyed Nancy. How could I live on the top of a mountain with no money in my pocket, no gold for the counting? For I would let the money go, all to please her fancy, and I would marry no one but my Bonnie Blue-Eyed Nancy. She's my Bonnie Blue-Eyed lassie, with an air so sweet and tender, her walk like swans on water, and her waist so small and slender. Her golden hair in ringlets fell all down her snow-white shoulder, and I'd ask her for to marry me, and there's no man could be bolder. Now there's some people say she is very low in station, and there's more people say she'll be the cause of my ruination. But let them all say what they will, to her I will prove constant still, till the day that I die. She will be my own lovely lady. The swallow o'er the dark waters of Ochel, and how blithely sings the nightingale, so charming to behold her. And the winds may blow, and the moorcocks crow, and the moon shine out so clearly, oh, ah, but deeper by far is my love for my own lady. Now there's some people say she is very low in station, and there's more people say she'll be the cause of my ruination. But let them all say what they will, to her I will prove constant still, till the day that I die. She will be my own lovely lady. Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Eileen now, who's going to tell you about the harp. Like I said, Eileen's parents come from Limerick and Galway, and they've been living in St. Louis for many years and founded St. Louis Irish Arts, which is a school for Irish music, song, and dance, and Eileen and I both teach there. So she's going to tell you all about the Irish harp.
All right, so I'm sure all of you have seen the larger concert harps that are in orchestras. This is the technique of playing this is basically the same, but the difference between the instruments is obviously one is much smaller and more portable, and this has one less octave on the bottom and one less octave on the top. So you're not really losing any of the central notes, just the extreme notes. And then the main difference is these levers here. I have one on each string, and it changes the pitch of the string by a half step. So all the strings can do that. So basically I have two for the price of one on each one. And Irish music is mostly in just a couple of keys, so I don't really have to retune the harp ever. But if we were gonna, say, play in like D flat or something, then I would have to retune the harp. But sometimes we'll be changing from the key of D to the key of G, so I'll just have to change the C's somewhere along the way. Just take my hands off the strings for a second and grab them, throw them down. Get used to it pretty quickly. This harp is made of cherry, and the soundboard is cedar, just like most guitars. The strings are made of carbon fiber, but they used to be made, a long time ago, they were made of gut, and then along the way they were then nylon, and now they're carbon fiber. My concert harp, so I did my music degree in classical music, so I do have the big one as well. Those are still gut strings, and they do sound the best, but they are not suitable for this type of harp, so that's why this one has different ones. So I'm going to play you a piece of music that was composed in the year 1661. Ireland has a really kind of a separate harp history. Harp players were very important in ancient Gaelic society. Usually every wealthy house had their own harp player, or they would have traveling harp players visiting and composing tunes for the owners of the house. So this one was written by one of those guys named Thomas Connellan. He was one of the well-respected guys in the 17th century, and he wrote this piece called Lady Ivy for Lady Ivy. Thank you very much.
So we keep mentioning it, so I might as well show you the tin whistle in case you haven't seen it before. So this is a tin whistle. Very simple little instrument, very cheap. You can buy expensive ones, but I don't like them as much as the cheap ones, so I just have a cheap one. And they're super simple. Like $10, $15 to buy one, and you can, some of the best music in Ireland is made on one of these things. So it's kind of amazing. I'm not going to play that, though. So you get a little taste. Instead, I'm going to tell you now about this instrument, which is a flute. But it's unusual because the flutes that you most likely have seen are usually silver, and they usually have tons of keys on them. So this is not that old, but it is modeled after flutes that were around before the silver flute was invented. So they would have been, beginning of the 1800s up until kind of late 1800s, and that's kind of when the Bohm flute or the silver flute took over. So it's very similar to the tin whistle because if you ignore all the keys, you have exactly the same scale, just an octave lower. So it's very, very easy to go from the tin whistle to the flute, and from there to the superior instrument, the Irish pipes. Right around the same time from where Lady Ivy is from, there was a Scottish general who said, bagpipes are good enough music for them who love them. He did not. But they're not so good as he called it the Almain flute or the Almain whistle, but it meant a fife or a flute. So I agree, these are pretty fun instruments. What else should I say about it? Oh, this is, since Eileen said it, this is made out of mopani, which is a wood from Africa. Back in the 1800s, most of these instruments were made from African blackwood or cocos wood, but those trees are harder to find now. They've been farmed too much, cut down too much, so they're starting to look at other flute woods. So, might play a couple tunes for you, and you can hear how the flute sounds.
Despite what Nick or Eileen will tell you, the king of all instruments in Ireland is the fiddle. It is definitely, it out and out, the most popular instrument in Irish music, without a doubt.
The state instrument of Missouri.
Yes, indeed it is. It is the state instrument of Missouri.
But the harp is the national instrument of Ireland.
And the uilleann pipes are the real national instrument of Ireland.
And the one everyone wants to play is the fiddle.
That's true. Popularity doesn't mean it's the best. It just means it's the most popular.
No, but it is very, very popular. A lot of that has to do with just how easy and accessible purchasing fiddles is in Ireland and in the States as well. Pipes and harp are a little harder to come by. But there's a huge number of people learning the fiddle. And often people ask me why it's called a fiddle and not a violin, and if there's a difference between the two instruments. And there isn't. It's the exact same instrument. But if you play folk music or Celtic music, you typically would refer to it as a fiddle. And then if you play classical music, you'd refer to it as a violin. But the actual instruments themselves are the exact same. There's slight differences in the technique and the way we would approach playing the instrument. Especially down to like posture and how we would hold the bow and how we use the bow in a certain way. But the actual physical instrument is the exact same. It's just the music that we play on the instrument is different. But seeing as they got their, elevator pitch about their instruments out, I'll give you mine. My fiddle comes from Germany. It comes from the Black Forest, and it was made around the turn of the century. And you'll find with a lot of instruments, especially fiddles, a lot of them are very, very old. And they sometimes say the older the instrument, the sweeter the tune. But there's a lot of modern day luthiers and fiddle makers out there that are making beautiful instruments. But this one I've had this one since 2008. and I really like it. But as Eileen said, yes, the fiddle is the state instrument of Missouri, and in the States, all over the States, the fiddle is really popular in Irish music as well. Again, sort of because of how easy it is to come by fiddles, but also a lot of fiddle players emigrated here at different points in time. In particular, in the 20s, there was a huge number, or a large number of fiddle players that emigrated to New York, and they were some of the first Irish musicians recorded. And a lot of their music was sent back to Ireland. And at that time, you have to picture, we didn't have Spotify or YouTube or anything else in Ireland. And so if you learnt music from the person that was in your local community, or that was easily accessible to you. And so for a long time, people will say in Dublin only heard what people in Dublin played, and the same with people in Clare or Cork or wherever they were. So when these guys emigrated to New York and then they sent music back to Ireland, it was the first time people in Ireland would have heard what music from other parts of Ireland had sounded like, even though they had to go all the way to New York and send the music back across the pond. So it was sort of a roundabout way of hearing what people 2 or 3 hours drive away from you, what they sounded like. But now that we have all access to music all over the world. But I'm going to play a little tune for you that comes from my home county. It comes from County Clare. It was composed by a fiddle player named Junior Crehan. And he was quite a character. And so a lot of the pieces of music that we play, like the one Eileen played, are sometimes written in honor of someone. So they mention someone's name. Sometimes they're written about a place. So it'll have a place name in the title. And other times they're written about inanimate objects, or they try to capture a story in just a couple of words. But Junior Crehan had a habit of being very descriptive in his titles. And so this is possibly one of the longest tune titles that we have. It's called I've a House of My Own with a Chimney Built on the Top of It. Well, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of songs, not just in English, but in the Irish language as well. And some of you may or may not know that in Ireland, learning Irish, or some people call it Gaelic, the Irish word for it is Gaelga. Learning Irish is a compulsory subject in school all the way through high school. And we have a lot of immersion schools in Ireland that are very popular, at least one in every big town across the country. And I attended one of those for grade school, so all of my grade schooling was done through the Irish language. The language, even though it's not a first language for most people in Ireland, there are pockets of the country where it is the first language, and those areas are called Gael Tuchts. And so there are a number of people living in those areas who conduct all of their daily business in Irish. But the language has really gone through a sort of renaissance in the last 20 years, and it's become more and more popular. There's definitely a growing understanding amongst young people in particular to preserve the language. And so we have an Irish language radio station and an Irish language television station that are very popular. And the attendance in a lot of the immersion schools has skyrocketed in the last number of years as well. So I'm going to sing a little song for you in Irish so that you can hear the language. This song is called Tair a Wallaroo, which means go home with you. And it's a little conversation between a father and a daughter. They're arguing back and forth about whether her match has been made or whether it hasn't. The father is of the opinion that he has found his daughter a nice man for her to marry, but she does not agree with his choice because one of the primary reasons she lists is that she doesn't want to marry him because he is a piper. So I'll let you make up your own mind on that one. But they argue back and forth about whether her match has been made or whether it hasn't, and I like to leave her with the last word. And at the end of it, I'm going to follow it up with a little bit of traditional Irish rapping, better known as lilting or didling. And lilting is a form of mouth music like yodeling or scatting, and it involves taking a dance tune and instead of humming it or playing it on an instrument or singing like la 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 la, you put what are called nonsensical vocables to the tune. And that is a very fancy way of saying gibberish or gobbledygook. And you can pick any vocables that you like, as long as they fit with the flow of the music and as long as the rhythm is not interrupted by whatever vocables you choose. You can use any vocables to get the melody across. So I'm going to tack on a little bit of lilting at the end of the tune. And the reason I'm telling you that is just so that you can be aware of what's happening and not think that I have had some sort of a fit. Because I did lilt one time for this lady or for a group of people, but one of the ladies was she was almost 100. She was just a few months shy of her 100th birthday, and she got very distressed when she heard me lilting. She didn't know what was going on, and she thought I was having some sort of like convulsion. So just be forewarned, nothing's wrong. This is an art form. 2, 3, 4. Tato alle ruveri, Tato alle espanso alle marta the hurricadeenda. It's come a kayen, they no noyan, it's come a kayen, they very, it's come a kayen, they no noyan, marta the hurricadeenda. Oh, Tato alle ruveri, Tato alle espanso alle marta the hurricadeenda. Post on people, post on people, post on people, very, post on people, do snake. By Shay Hawk at their Martin, oh, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, very, Tato, alle is one, so alle Marta, the water gadainta. Todo water gadainta, Neil ma water get todo water get Neil ma water gadainta. Oh, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, very, Tato, alle is fun, so alle marta, the water gadainta. Oh, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, Tato, alle do, very, Tato, alle is fun, so alle marta, the water gadainta. Dee dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum doodle dum diddly di deedle di doodle dee dum dee idle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di doodle di diddly di doodle dee dum dee idle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di day dee idle di doodle di diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di doodle dum da da dee day dee idle di doodle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di doodle dum diddle di doodle dee dum dee idle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly dum diddly dum diddly dum da da dee do dee idle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum diddly di doodle dum da da dee day dee idle di doodle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do skidly dum dee idle dum diddly di doodle dum da dee doodle dum da da dee day dee idle di doodle dum diddly di do or roodle dum doodle dum da da dee do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, we are going to finish up with another blast of music. But before we do, we'd just like to see if anyone has any questions for us or anything that you'd like to ask. I can almost see you again. I should have worn my sunglasses. Don't be shy. We will be around for... yeah, go ahead.
Can you change the tuning of the drones on the...
No.
Limitations.
Yeah, it's some new makers have done things where you can do some changing of it, but typically no. Historically, you wouldn't do that. Yeah, just the one pitch, which again drives people crazy when I insist on playing D. They're all in D against E minor, which I love, but other people hate.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
From carrying it, yes. and a little bit of scoliosis to go with it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she gets all her steps in her arms.
Yeah. I did put my Fitbit on my bow arm one time just to see what would happen, and I played for an hour, and I hadn't taken any steps, and it said that I had taken 4,000 of them, so, yeah.
And then it called... It called 911 for her because it thought she was having a heart attack.
Yes, go ahead.
So the early music, the early Celtic music, how was it handed down?
There were collectors who would go around to different music festivals and listen to the music and write it as they heard it. And without those couple of guys who did that, it would have all been lost. So we're very grateful to them and their amazing listening abilities to just listen and write on the first try.
But Irish music is primarily taught by ear. So and so there's been loads of music that we have lost because people didn't have the ability to write it down, or they didn't understand how to write music. So we definitely have lost some tunes along the way, and also some of them get a little bit changed along the way as well. We've got, like, the game of telephone is strong in Irish music, but yeah, we typically teach it by ear. It's a primarily oral tradition. Did you have something you wanted to add, Nick?
I was going to say, like before the 1850s, Irish music might have sounded quite different and might have had quite a bit of a different repertoire. There was a small event that happened around then, which you might be aware of, the famine. And of course, there's a lot of people that emigrated, so a lot of musicians left Ireland. A lot of people died. So a lot of musicians died, and a lot of music was lost with them. So we don't really know what it sounded like. We do have the collections that Eileen mentioned, so we know some of the repertoire, but we don't really know if it's exactly the same way it was played. So
That's a good question.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead. That so a lot of left-handed people, we call them kithogs in Irish, they would just play the fiddle as a right-handed player. But you can get fiddles that are set up specifically for a left-handed person. A lot of people, even if they're left-handed, like my brother is left-handed, they choose not to opt for one of those fiddles because you're very limited. There's fewer of them in the world, and so if you ever needed to borrow one, it's unlikely that you'd find someone with a left-handed fiddle. But they do exist, but most left-handed players would just play it as a right-handed person.
And the harp, there's pretty much just one way to play it. The same as the piano. You couldn't switch hands on the piano, and the harp is kind of the same thing. But actually, the ancient Irish harps were wire strung, and the strings were strung on the other side, and people put them on their other shoulder, and they had their hands reversed. So actually quite different than the way I do it, which is a little closer to modern classical technique.
Mm-hmm.
The flute and the whistle and the pipes they also have left-handed versions of them. So like I play right-handed like this, but if I played like this, that would be left-handed. Same with the pipes, they'd be the other way around. And it has no bearing on whether you're left-handed or not. I'm actually left-handed and I play right-handed, and I have a good friend who's right-handed that plays left-handed.
It's a piping thing.
It's a flute and whistle thing too.
Yes, in the back. Yes, good. Yes. So a lot of the music that we played here today is old in that, Eileen played something from the 17th century, and some of it has been composed in the last 100 years, even in the last 50, 60 years. And then there's lots of new dance tunes and new pieces of Irish music that are composed daily that are also played on these instruments. And then you'll also find that these instruments are being used in other genres of music in Ireland, not specifically traditional Irish music, but you'll find them used in jazz, in sort of fusion, even in some pop music and things like that. So the instruments are not just confined to playing traditional Irish music. Yeah.
It's actually a good segue because we're going to play two tunes that have been composed fairly recently, relatively recently, so 50s, 60s, or 70s, possibly later. With our last set of tunes, we're going to play three reels. The first was called Love at the Endings and was actually composed in Philadelphia by an Irish fiddle player from Cavan. The second one is the
Reel of Rio.
Reel of Rio, which was composed by a fiddle player from Galway. And the last one is not composed newly.
But it does have a connection to County Clare, where I'm from, so that trumps all,
It's all that matters.
Yeah.
And we have some CDs here, if anyone owns a CD player anymore.
Yeah.
Lighten our load on the way home.
Yeah, thank you so much for your attention this morning and for having us here. It's been a pleasure to bring our Irish music to you and to play for you. And thank you so much to Ryan and to Chad for inviting us here and for hosting us. We've had such a lovely time, and hopefully we'll make it back to Joplin again. This is my and Nick's first time to Joplin. Yeah, so we are exploring the great state of Missouri.
I moved to St. Louis in January, so this is my first time this far west in Missouri, or this far south in Missouri, or really anywhere around this area of Missouri. So it's great.
Well, we're going to leave you with these reels, and we will be around for a few minutes afterwards if anyone has any questions or anything they'd like to say to us. So thank you all so much. Here we go with Love at the Endings. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.